Hi, I am Hatu. Welcome to Asian Agribiz podcast. Thank you for listening to the first part of this podcast. In this second part, Arif Fahruddin and Vincent Guyonnet are discussing about marketing and branding of eggs, sustainability, and modern farming and automation. Dr. Guyonnet was the speaker of Asian Agribiz Layer Feed Quality Conference.
Now, I want to touch about the marketing aspect of eggs. We think that this is also a challenge for Southeast Asia. And we at Asian Agribiz found that many egg producers in this region still rely on selling fresh eggs without branding, selling per kg or per piece. Some producers have started to add values by grading and packing their eggs, put a brand, and even offer fortified eggs like omega eggs and adjective-free eggs like salmonella-free, AGP-free, cage-free, and so on. These value-added eggs are sold in supermarkets, but the way supermarket chains arrange the shelves, Professor David Hugh said, it is a boredom, not attractive at all. He said, and how the supermarket chains arrange the shelves of eggs. So tell us your perspective. First, the importance for egg producers to grade, pack, and brand their eggs. And second, the importance for them to collaborate with supermarket chains to better promote their branded eggs to attract buyers.
Right. Well, so first of all, let's go back, maybe, North America and Western Europe 40 years ago. The eggs would have been sold maybe 40, 50 years ago, would have been sold like bulk or, sort of unbranded, not really appealing. So it's a journey, right? We've done that in other countries. And I think now is the time for Southeast Asia to go that journey of going from bulk unbranded product to nicely packaged and better presented, products. My second example, before I answer clearly your question, is exactly what is happening in China. China, biggest egg producer in the world, huge amount of egg produced, and most of them for still a few years ago, maybe 99% of the eggs were sold unbranded. So people just buy them by weight and that's it, right? Yeah. About 3 years ago, I worked with a media company in Shanghai, and we have set up an industry association, producer association, gathering the top, I think we had 8 at the beginning, the largest 8 egg producers, to try to drive that shift from unbranded bulk product to nicely packaged branded product. Okay, because in a country, if you believe that you have achieved the maximum penetration in terms of consumption, right? Then the other way that you grow the market is by getting people upgrade to more premium product, right? So that's also another important element for growth. So that example of China is to demonstrate also that producers need to work together again to develop standards for those nicely packaged branded products, so that now more of the larger producers agree that they are going to sell their eggs that way, right? Because right now you have the challenge of sort of bulk eggs and also the branded product, right? And it's a bit of competition, and obviously the bulk eggs are going to be cheaper, right?
Yeah.
So we need really to advertise, what's the value of branded product? Okay, well, then you can say food safety. The egg is extremely safe food, but now you have a branded product, you know exactly which farm it's coming from, when the egg was laid, and so forth. So that's a good information. And I think the younger generation are more receptive to those issues, right?
Yes.
So better traceability, more appealing package. You can also provide more information on the package in terms of, maybe where the hens were, where the birds were raised, what sort of nutrition they were given. A lot of producers now, on the package, you could have pictures of the barns. You can have, in some countries, you put the picture of the farmer so that people understand those eggs are coming from, real person, right? Real chickens and real farmers. So you sort of humanize production. And I would say, on a global basis, what is fascinating about the egg production compared to broilers is that most of the farm are still family owned, right? I would expect in Southeast Asia, I hope it's the same. But I mean, in North America, they're mostly family owned companies. They're big, but they're still owned by a family. So you have that human, flavor to production. Slightly different for broilers, which is more like bigger corporation, probably because you need to invest a lot of money for processing of chickens and processing plant and so forth. So.
True.
So anyway, building the brand. So then you need to build the brand. So you need the strong marketing approach and so forth. Create value, create a story, create an image for your products. But it's once you have branded products, say you can sell, if you want, cage free, or you can enrich them with different nutrients, omega-3 shell egg, enhance selenium, vitamin E, vitamin D, a lot of things. Actually, I remember my last visit in Jakarta was in 2017, and I have beautiful pictures. I forgot the name of the retail store now, but of beautiful packaging of eggs. From Indonesia, what we call functional eggs, so eggs enriched in different nutrients. So there is already, there's already a market there. Obviously, it's probably restricted to maybe bigger cities where you got more affluent population, which makes sense. That's the target market. But the Gen Z also are going to have more disposable income, willing to invest more for better food, for safer food, and those should be the key messages and the target. And now is the time, educate them that eggs, you buy them in grocery stores in nice packaged, and that's once they're convinced of that, you will keep them for the whole life, right?
Yes.
So probably it's the best way to target them, and maybe you can target the older generation if they have, money. But it's probably harder to convince somebody that has been buying bulk egg for the past 30 years to switch, right? It's much easier to convince a new consumer.
Mm-hmm. What about my second question about the importance for the egg producers to collaborate with supermarket chains to better promote their branded eggs to prevent the boredom, like Professor David Yu mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the egg counters are sometimes either boring or confusing. Now, having said that, I would say typically in Southeast Asia, I find them more interesting because you have more variety. You could have quail eggs, you could have duck eggs. I mean, in China, I've seen dove eggs, pigeon eggs, all those different things. So much more than in North America, where typically you have chicken egg, that's it. White eggs, that's it. Maybe a bit of brown eggs, and not much more. So I would say, yes, bring them more diversity, more options, and make them understand that with the egg, they can also make some profit at retail. Too often, I'm not sure in Southeast Asia if it's the case, definitely in Europe and North America, the egg, the milk at what they call the lost leader. So they put very cheap price for milk, for eggs, for bread, so that consumers come and buy big quantity of those products. And then while they're in the store, they will buy something else. So they use the cheap price of the egg, of the milk, to attract consumers to the store. And once they're in the store, they will buy other things, so the company can make profit on those other products.
It happens here.
But what was that?
Yes, it happens here.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So it's the same principle, I'm sure. So for the eggs, you can create different categories of eggs into sort of premium eggs where there's more profit for the producer, but also more profit for the retailers. So make the store understand that if they stop selling bulk egg, but only carry nicely branded package, first, the image for the consumers is, oh, this retail store is higher value, upscale, modern, and so forth, right? And you don't have those crack eggs that are being displayed anymore, dirty eggs and so forth. So it's a better image for the retailer. And so that's where the producers need to get together and agree, okay, in our stores, in these stores, we're not going to sell bulk egg anymore. We're not going to sell eggs by the kilo, by the piece anymore, right? It's all going to be nice packaged product. And that's probably where all producers need to agree, because otherwise, it takes one producer that say, no, I'm going to keep selling them egg, bulk, and then the retail store is going to continue to carry those bulk products. So a industry-wide sort of commitment to shifting the sale of products to branded product is the key to me to be successful. Everybody needs to be on board, understanding that, yes, at the beginning you could sell less egg, but there's going to be more premium, more value for you. And then at the same time, if you're worried about overproduction of eggs, well, I have another story or another idea for you is producers should invest more money into egg processing.
Ah, correct.
This is a huge potential in the region. There is very few egg processing plants in the 5 countries that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And this is a missed opportunity. Now, the investment needed is much higher, but the benefit, and especially with the Gen Z, because Gen Z needs, they like easy food, convenience, quick meals, all those different things. Yeah. And like a simple opportunities for the egg business is to grow the hard boiled, the cooked egg that is being available to consumers. In many countries in Europe, in North America, you stop at a retail store, you stop at the gas station, you can buy a cooked peeled egg, for example. So all you have to do is open the package and you eat an egg, and that's a great snack, for example.
Yeah.
But you don't need to invest so much. I mean, I've been in Mozambique, so in Southern Africa, a country that is quite poor, still suffering. And in northern Mozambique, very poor area, I've seen, a young boy with a flat sort of a 30 egg, tray. And those eggs had been cooked, and he was selling them to people. So, and I'm sure he was cooking them somewhere, in a pot at his home, for example. So you start small, but there is a market there. There is a great potential. And it's a great business, because whatever you cannot sell at retail, or if you have some, health concern, those products can be pasteurized or cooked, so therefore there is less risk of food safety risk. So great opportunity. After investing in bigger farms and more modern systems, I think that will be my other priority in Southeast Asia, is invest in egg processing.
Yeah, I agree with you. Okay, let's move to the current hot topic, sustainability, which has a broad meaning and aspect. If we are talking about an egg farm, and this farm wants to be sustainable or contribute to sustainability, reducing carbon footprint, and so on, from where should we start?
Okay, if you want me to answer very quickly, yes. I would say the feed.
The feed.
Okay, the feed, but so nutrition. But first of all, let me remind the auditors that first of all, the egg has one of the best footprint in terms of value, in terms of CO2 emission per kilo of egg produced or per kilo of protein produced. Okay.
Yeah.
The egg overall, it's around 2.5 kilos of CO2 per kilo of eggs. And if you look at protein, 30 to 40 kilos of CO2 equivalent per kilo of protein. To give you an idea, beef, it's about 10 times more. Okay. So in terms of animal protein, the egg has already the best or the lowest carbon footprint and impact on the environment. So that's the beauty, and that's what we need to communicate more also already. As a sector, we already have a very low impact. Okay, the egg on a global basis, the egg contributes, from memory, I think it's 2.8% of the global emission of the livestock sector. That's the egg. Okay, so very, very, very small.
Interesting.
And most of the emission, I would say about 70%, is coming from the feed. Okay, that's the key source of emission. 20% it's manure management. So if we want to do two things to reduce the impact on the environment and improve the sustainability, environmental sustainability of the egg, you would sort of work on ways to improve the feed conversion, so the number of eggs produced per kilo of feed consumed by the hens. That would be a great benefit. And if I remember well, I believe in Indonesia, and if you correct me if I'm wrong, Indonesian government mandate that there is a certain percentage of protein in layer ration, isn't it?
Correct.
Like 17%, I forgot the number, but it was like it's mandatory.
Yeah.
And it is a shame. I understand why the government was doing that, because they worry that sometimes we don't give enough protein or the feed is low value. But if it's 17%, as the hens get older, it's too much protein. So too much protein means what? Means the feed is more expensive than it should be.
Yes.
And also the feed contributes to more emission than it should be, because typically here in North America, towards the middle to end of production, we are happy with say 13% protein. Right? So right there you got 4% protein more in your diet for a big, a large number of hens. So there could be a potential in Indonesia if you can revise those rules.
Yes.
Or allow flexibility to producers, that plus we can play with a percentage level to reduce the size of the egg. As the hen are getting older, the eggs are bigger, sometimes too big, right? So we can play with a number of factors. Nutrition is one, to reduce the size of the egg. So nutrition, composition of the diet, also the sourcing of the ingredients. Obviously, if you buy ingredients that are coming from areas that have been recently, with deforestation, then there is a higher effect on the CO2 emission. Okay. And then the other one that I mentioned a minute ago is manure management. Manure management, 20% of emissions for the sector. And there is some simple ways to improve the or reduce the emissions from manure. Better manure management, dry the manure, have manure in a dry form and not in a lagoon form, because in lagoons, so if it's wet, liquid form, there will be more emissions. So there is a number of things, but clearly the key message on the environmental sustainability for the audience is that the key contributing, first, the sector itself contributes very low, so we should be very happy, and we should tell that to the people, because and you have two fantastic studies that have been done in the US and in Canada showing the evolution over the past 50 years of production. And you can see tremendous reduction in the degree of emission of CO2 and others, acidification, eutrophication, and so forth, because of improvement, more eggs produced per hen, less mortality in the flock, better feed utilization, all those things. So genetic selection improvement, all those have contributed to fantastic progress. So we produce way many more eggs with less resources needed. Okay, so that's the great story we need to tell. And then if you want to further improve or reduce your impact on the environment, improve on the feed and on the manure management. Now that was sustainability, that's the environment. There's also the aspect of social and economic sustainability. Social sustainability, we talked a bit about it with animal welfare, but it's also worker safety, all those different elements, right? And economic, it's making sure that you create value, you offer different type of products to the consumers and so forth.
Okay. Last but not the least, let's talk about modern precision farming, automation, and robots. I once heard in your presentation about these things. How important for egg producers in Southeast Asia to adopt the technologies if we relate it with production costs, animal health, food safety, and also sustainability?
Yes, I mean, especially if you invest in new farms, try to build systems where you can have, or barns, where you can have more sensors and automated systems. The sector typically is very rich in data. We write a lot of information on forms and paper, and typically don't do much with it. Maybe you review at the end of the day, at the end of the week, maybe at the end of the flock, but you will never go back 3 flocks ago to compare that data with the current flock, right? It's very rare that you do that when the data is on a piece of paper. If the data is on a computer with easy access, then you can start making more comparison, okay? So I would say step 1, invest in more automated system that can collect information in terms of temperature, feed consumption, water consumption. Those are the key elements, right?
Okay.
And have them remotely available, because then you don't need to go in the barn all the time. It's also, you have less risk of data mistakes because you don't have somebody that writes it. It's automatically done. You can also have alert triggers that, if the temperature of the barn is above, say, 35 degrees, then you have an alert system so that you know that you need to do something. Or you can have those systems also connected to ventilation, to whatever different system, right? So it's a more modern and instant, type of management that you can have. So that's the first step. I would say invest in those automated data collection sensor system, Internet of Things, right? That's the first step. And you can already gain a lot of efficiencies by having more accurate, precise data.
Okay.
And then after that, the next step would be to gather the data, to analyze the data, to report the data, to visually see the data. And that's what some companies now offer, those type of services where the farmers have what we call a dashboard. So on a screen, you can see your key element, your key results, and so forth, right? And then later on, at some point, when you have sufficient data, then you can start using the data to your benefit in terms of analytical benefit. And now, potentially at some point, you will be able to use past data to make prediction on the future outcome of your flock, okay? That's maybe still a few years away, but that's basically what is going to happen in the use of artificial intelligence. But to get there, we need first to collect the data on the farm in a digitalized manner, right? So it needs to be digital data being collected. So let's first invest in those type of sensors and systems that we can have the data. And then later on, that data will be analyzed and used for prediction. Robot or AI, those sensors are great because they are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week inside the chicken house, inside the layer house, right? So that's also another element that we can tell consumers and NGOs and retailers, look, we are taking great care of our birds. And now we have those new systems that allow us continuous 24 hours a day data collecting and data gathering. So therefore, we know exactly what is happening. In the old days, you will have a sort of a snapshot, a picture of the barn when you're in the barn, right? So maybe 3 or 4 times in a day, and that's it. And maybe less on Saturday and less on Sunday. Now with those sensors, those different systems, you have a continuous evaluation, a continuous vision of what's happening inside the barn. And talking about vision, you can also incorporate some video cameras. You also have lots of research now being done in terms of sounds, try to detect any sign of distress, of problem of birds using sounds. It's already being done in other animal production, cows, pigs, where you can detect potential diseases like coughing of animals, and something is going to happen. So therefore, you use that information from a health management standpoint. So tremendous opportunities. It's going to need investment. It's going to need some time. But if you build a new barn, try to set up a number of things, as I say, temperature, automated feed and water consumption, also some scales, automated scales, so you can weigh the birds, those type of things. Reduce labor and also use the labor you have for more valuable work, jobs. Rather than write down numbers, they should also spend more time looking at the birds and taking care of the birds.
Agree with you. Okay, thank you very much for your great explanation, Vincent, and also the suggestions and solutions also for the egg producers in Southeast Asia.
My pleasure, and I hope someday we can do it live somewhere in Southeast Asia, because it's always much more interesting to have the direct feedback and interaction with producers. So I look forward to that day where we can have a producers meeting, maybe in Indonesia or somewhere, and spend more time and discuss those different ideas. And in closing, I think my key recommendation for the listeners, for the sectors, is that in each country, producers, you should work together. Together, you can grow the market. If you fight each other, you're not really going to grow consumption. You have to pool resources, educate consumers together, teach them what an egg is, what it can do for them in terms of nutrition and so forth. And that's the key. It's been proven in a number of countries, and I have no doubt that it's going to work in Southeast Asia. But we need to have strong producer organization and producers fully behind that commitment.
Interesting. Collaboration, and collaboration.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Vincent.
Thank you for listening to Asian Agribiz podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to this show on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you get your podcasts.